A long time ago, I had the opportunity to attend a few things hosted by Neil Gaiman, a writer that I have always had a very mixed relationship with. There are books of his that I love and others that I think are just like Tim Burton. When he's interesting, he's interesting. When he's lazy, he's lazy. There's no in between. So I'm going to go back to that and then I'm going to talk about the allegations. So, I'm Will. I host the Bald Book Geek. Like, sub, share this video. I sound like Snuffleupagus today because I have a head cold. And please check out memberships and Patreon because there will be an uncensored version of this video available there where I can talk more freely. So let's start the show. When I got to meet him, I was very starstruck. I was in my early 20s, it was an amazing opportunity, and it was absolutely fascinating. There is no denying that. But I was absolutely starstruck. Looking back on it, it was. I hate saying it this way, but when you look back on things, you see things in a different light, and Neil was very aware of his power in the room, which I found fascinating. When he walked in, it was like a rock star entered. I mean, the awe that the audience was in, and I was one of them. And very much he felt like he was a rock star, and I think he thought he was a rock star. So maybe there's some ego there, and maybe a lot of things, but Neil was the voice of the weird and the quirky. And it was a fascinating conversation, it was writing classes, it was amazing. But looking back, things now make a lot more sense. Also, his sort of behaviour in the room was, again, looking back, makes more sense. But also, I will say that when I went there, it was an amazing experience, and I wouldn't give it back. But there was talks of this kind of stuff on the message boards, on forums, on official places. There was a lot of conversations about certain behaviours that Neil engaged in. And it's funny how the mainstream press kind of pushed this under the rug a little bit when it all first dropped. No one was talking about it. Reddit boards were banning people for talking about it. And it just was weird. Because he was always the darling. He was always the media darling. Look at me. Look at my tweets. And one of his tweets aged like milk. Like, I used it in the thumbnail. It aged like milk. Not good milk either. It's aged so badly it's fossilized cheese at this point, where he talks about survivors and believing women and all of this stuff. So it's very interesting watching this all go down. I mean, he was celebrated for works such as The Sandman, American Gods, and one of my all-time favourite kind of cozy fantasy novels, Stardust. I absolutely love that book. And like I said, when he writes, he's either very lazy or very good. There is no in between, and sometimes it feels like he is across the board of weird. So, where do we start? There have been a series of accusations by multiple women. The allegations range from SA to blackmail, and I'm trying to word this in a family friendly way for the YouTube algorithm, a non consensual Dom activities. These claims have sparked this really interesting debate, but also it got pushed under the rug. In an expose by New York magazine, 8 women have come forward with allegations against Gaiman. One accuser, Scarlett, who previously worked as a nanny for him, and his then wife, Amanda, alleged that he initiated non-consensual adult activities during her employment. She claims these incidents include him joining her in a bath without her consent and committing acts of SA. Another woman, identified as Caroline, stated that she was coerced into acts while working as a caretaker at the residence, and claims that she was threatened with losing her accommodation employment if she refused. Caroline further alleges that he pressured her into signing a non disclosure agreement in exchange for a mandatory settlement. One accuser has described experiencing rough and degrading adult acts without prior consent, and alleging, and I have to use that word, that Gaiman engaged in a less than nice relationship under a master slave dynamic. Gaiman's response has been interesting. He's denied the accusations, releasing a statement in which he categorically rejects any claims of non consensual behaviour. He expresses regret for his past emotional unavailability and selfishness, but maintained that, to quote him, "I never engaged in non consensual adult acts with anyone ever." Gaiman further stated that some of the allegations simply never happened, while others are distorted to bear no relationship to reality. He emphasized his willingness to take responsibility for any missteps, but stood firm that he denied any of it. The impact on his career at this point is fascinating. The allegations have already affected professional projects. Several adaptations of his work have faced delays or cancellation. Good Omens Season 3 on Prime Video will now be a single 90-minute episode, with him no longer involved in the production. Disney have paused work on the film adaptation of The Graveyard Book. Netflix have cancelled Dead Boys Detectives, though it's unclear if the decision is related to the allegations. Okay, the literary community have largely remained quiet, actually, in the whole thing, drawing criticism for their muted response in compared to other high-profile cases, and author J.K. Rowling highlighted this, questioning why the Gaiman case hasn't prompted widespread condemnation. The Royal Society of Literature have stated it's still considering whether to revoke Gaiman's fellowship. Again, why is this so muted? Why is, no one really screaming from the void? Because I get the feeling if it had been anyone else, it would have been a very different response. Maybe there are reasons for that, but maybe, if you want the honest truth, Neil Gaiman was always viewed as one of the good guys. He was always viewed as the male feminist role, which I find fascinating. But it's usually the most quiet people and that tend to be the most problematic. Now, Gaiman's former wife, Amanda, has expressed her profound. Well, I'm trying to word this in a way that won't get this video taken down. But she's disbelief, that's the word, over the allegations. Some accusers claim that she was aware of his behaviour during their marriage, while she has refrained from making any detailed public comments, citing an ongoing divorce and custody proceedings. And she has also emphasised her focus is on the well-being of their son, which I firmly agree with. The allegations over him have cast a shadow over his legacy as a celebrated author. But what I will say is, why is no one else screaming about this? Why is everyone so quiet? As I recalled this, a handful of authors have said things, but they've kept everything very balanced or very neutral or very whisper network vibe, not quite saying what they're meant to be saying. And it does feel like a lot of people are, well, it seems very quiet on the Western Front. Like I said, if it had been anyone else, all hell would have broken loose. And that's simple. All hell would have broken loose, and ultimately, it would have been a problem. There are a lot of people's that careers would have been stomped into the ground over the slightest perceived misstep. Why are the allegations about him so not talked about? Like I said, when it first hit, Reddit and other places were banning conversation of it and banning users from talking about it. But it should be talked about. And it should be out in the public. I do believe that trial by social media and trial by opinion is not a good thing in this situation. The trial needs to be conducted by law. But I am surprised at the lack of people speaking. And a lot of people I have a lot of respect for aren't speaking, which raises a few red flags. Let's be real. At this moment in time, everything said is an accusation, and everything I've talked about is allegedly. So we will leave it at that. Because again, I don't want this video taken down, and I don't want lawyers coming after me. So tell me what you think in the comments. Tell me your opinions, because I want to know at this point. Why do you think everyone's been so quiet? Why do you think no one's talking? It seems just kind of weird.